the Israeli army is preparing to evict Jewish settlers from the Amona outpost in the occupied West Bank. The settlers have been ordered to leave within 48 hours. Well, it follows Israel's Supreme Court ruling that the land is privately owned by Palestinians. The court ordered an eviction before February the 8th. More than 300 settlers live in the illegal settlement, and soldiers have been deployed in and around the area before the relocation begins.
It's a private area. I have 5 dunums there, and I can't approach to my land, to prepare my land, to plant my land. And about 20 years, they occupied this land and this area. This area and this ground and this land, it's for us before 500 years. And they come, the settlers, and occupied that area. For this reason, I'm coming here to attend the court and to defend on our land, to return it back to the Palestinian people.
Now, Amona was built in the 1990s on private Palestinian land in the central part of the occupied West Bank. The land had previously been used for crops. Well, the construction of outposts is not approved by the Israeli government and is internationally considered to be illegal. In June 2014, an Israeli court ruled that the Palestinian owners of the land should be paid compensation. And in December of that year, the Supreme Court ordered the evacuation and complete demolition of Amona within 2 years, a deadline that has now passed. Well, for more on this, Zeina Awad is joining us live in the studio. Zeina, good morning to you, so thanks for coming in. So why now? Why has the decision come about?
Well, the 48-hour deadline that you mentioned earlier actually expires midnight Wednesday. And this is, by that point, the settlers need to have evacuated Amona. They're, of course, digging their heels. We understand that the Israeli army has deployed battalions to make this happen. They say that they're going to block exit and entry into the settlement and try to get them out. Now, the settlers have been promised financial compensation. They've also been promised to be moved to an adjacent land. And this is where it gets complicated, Kamali, because this is when the Palestinians also petitioned the High Court, saying that the adjacent land is also privately owned. You can't really just move them there. And the court has agreed with them. So it's a bit of a situation at the moment. It's an emotional one. I was looking at Twitter this morning, and activists were tweeting saying we have to go to so-called Judea and Samaria. That, of course, is what right-wing Israelis call the West Bank. And we have to protect our brothers in Amona. This is our land. So, you know, the story will be probably unfolding quite dramatically as Wednesday progresses.
Absolutely. We're looking at some live pictures of it happening at the moment as the process starts to take shape. Now, this is quite unusual, isn't it, for Jewish settlers to be evicted by the Israeli government? Why do you think it's happened now? And also, what about other settlements in the area?
Yeah, well, that's probably the most important question, I think, because it is quite unusual. And while this is happening and getting a great deal of media attention, the Likud party has thrown its backing behind a bill in Parliament that would legalize 4,000 other outposts, presumably to preempt such action in the future. And, you know, there's been a shift, really, with the election of U.S. President Donald Trump. U.S. foreign policy has consistently probably been more pro-Israel than not, but President Trump has made it absolutely clear that not only will he be pro-Israel, but he'll be pro-Netanyahu's take on what Israel should be, and that he supports the settlement project. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that he sees opportunities in this new election. And since Trump has been inaugurated, there have been at least 3 settlement projects that have been green-lighted in Israel. Now, if you think about the geography of the West Bank, this is a part of, well, historic Palestine, where over 2.5 million Palestinians live, and they have 500,000 heavily guarded and protected settlers who live among them across the West Bank. So that's sort of the geography. Those are the facts on the ground. And there's probably an opportunity now for the Likud government in Israel to capitalize on the new administration, really, and to promote its settlement project.
I mean, just looking at that, then looking at the next 4 years under a Trump administration, I mean, how do we see the peace process, which is, of course, stalled, actually going forward? Red lines are about to be crossed, aren't they, if these settlements are completely given the green lights and go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, one of the sort of red line issues, if you will, is the issue of Jerusalem, and specifically the U.S. Embassy. Now, at the moment, the U.S. Embassy is not in Jerusalem. Many presidential candidates have campaigned on the promise that they'll move it, but they haven't moved, and they haven't done anything to do that because that's a fundamental U.S. foreign policy principle. President Trump is hinting that he might go beyond that. And if you just look at the personnel that he's appointed, he says that the Middle East peace process is important to him, but the people he's appointed are quite right-wing. First of all is the person he wants to be his ambassador in Israel, David Friedman, who incidentally used to be Trump's bankruptcy lawyer. He's potentially will become the ambassador. He's extremely right-wing. Trump's own advisor, Jared Kushner, who also happens to be his son-in-law, also comes from a very pro-Israel, pro-Zionist family. So these are the characters, these are the individuals who will be formulating policy most likely on Palestine, Israel, on the Middle East in the next 4 years to come.
We'll wait and see what happens. Zeina, thanks as always.
Thank you.